Home Affairs Minister Dr Aaron Motsoaledi's wish to tighten immigration laws in South Africa has received a boost. The ANC in its policy conference proposed that the country review the visa system and establish refugee centres at border posts. There are also proposals that South Africa withdraws from the 1951 Convention on Refugees. The Home Affairs Minister joins us now for more on this. Thank you very much, Dr Motsoaledi, for availing yourself this afternoon. Perhaps let's just start with what we have been hearing coming out of that raid in Krugersdorp. The police minister pointing out to a disturbing trend, and that is of young people from Mozambique that take part in this zamazaming business, if you will. And he also spoke or alluded to some form of human trafficking that is happening, namely in Gauteng, Free State, Mpumalanga and Limpopo, saying the situation of illegal mining is quite bad there. In terms of priorities for repatriation, where does the Home Affairs Department fit in this picture?
Well, thank you very much, Dudu, and thank you to the viewers and listeners. Well, in terms of the law, anybody who is caught by either police or immigration officials and who is in the country illegally must be sent to Lindela Repatriation Center and be deported. But the deportation can happen in two ways. If we detain such a person, then they must appear in front of a magistrate within 48 hours. But if we catch them and immediately deport them, and then there's no need for that appearance in front of a magistrate. But that is what happens.
The situation of illegal mining, does it add fuel to the calls for South Africa to withdraw from the 1951 Convention on Refugees?
No. That was not the reason. And the resolution doesn't say we must withdraw from the convention. It says we must withdraw and re-enter with reservations and exceptions. If you look at the paper that I've submitted to the conference, we are showing that when the convention was enacted in 1951 and the protocol in 1967, many countries ratified that, but they had exemptions. That means they had certain reservations where they are saying, look, we are accepting this convention, but this part of the convention we are not accepting. Now, South Africa at that time was not a nation. It could not participate. South Africa started participating in 1996, 2 years after democracy. But when South Africa participated, it was not aware that they can have reservations of certain areas. So South Africa did not have these reservations, and some of them are causing problems. So we are just saying, let's withdraw and re-enter, but make reservations. The reservations to which countries usually make is in terms of looking at their economy, whether certain things that the conventions are saying their economy can afford or not, but they also look at the security and safety of their nationals. And so those reservations are about that. It was not really about zamazamas. But zamazamas, remember, it's a criminal offense. And it doesn't matter who is doing it. It's an absolutely criminal offense. And if we catch such people and find that they are illegal, yes, indeed, we will definitely deport them. But if police reach to them first and charge them for these illegal activities and they serve a sentence, after serving the sentence, when it's about to come to an end, the Minister of Correctional Services will write to the Minister of Home Affairs and give a list of people who have served their sentence and tell us that in 2 weeks' time they will be out, and we prepare for their deportation.
Right. Minister, if you could please, I beg your indulgence, just to bring a viewer who is just joining us up to speed with developments coming out of Krugersdorp. We saw a public-private partnership led by the Police Ministry of South Africa, and we now know that 42 people have been arrested. They too will be subjected to DNA testing. 32 cell phones were recovered. Gold pairing material were found there, and as you can see on the visuals that we are bringing you, that people have been handcuffed as they are waiting to be processed by the police. The police minister noting that what is worrying is that it's young people from Mozambique, and he also alluded to some form of human trafficking. These are visuals coming out of Krugersdorp, that abandoned mine, where we now know that 8 women were raped. One of the women was raped by 10 different men. And this has brought on this response. But the police minister also refuting claims that the police are reactionary, saying that there's a number of operations that they have been conducting, even though maybe the public is not aware of them. He relayed, or the Commissioner for Gauteng, Elias Mawela, the police commissioner for Gauteng, relayed how one woman who is a Basotho national had bullets on her back. She also had a baby to cover those bullets, and she was acting as a bullet mule, if you will. Riranzu Temba doing the rounds there at that mine. She speaks for the police minister. Let's just invite back into the conversation the Minister of Home Affairs as we speak on immigration issues. Another issue that was put forward, Minister, was the entire overhaul of the immigration policy in South Africa. I do wonder how much of a center stage this discussion took in terms of going to the root of the problem. And this is something that you have also admitted on a number of occasions, that you have staff within the Home Affairs Department that collude with people who are not necessarily from South Africa and find their ways into the country illegally by selling passports, by selling visas. How much of a problem is that, and how much was it discussed in the policy conference to stem that out?
Yes, the overhauling of the immigration system is to try and stem all those things that we have mentioned. For instance, since democracy, there has been 3 acts of parliament that has been enacted. Is the Citizenship Act of 1995, the Refugee Act of 1998, and the Immigration Act of 2002. All of them were passed without an overarching policy. And recently in 2020, the Border Management Authority Act. Now we want an overarching policy about conditions under which immigration must happen and all those acts must operate. But then we are also proposing in the same document that this act I've mentioned must be completely overhauled, because we have studied internationally how it's done. And we found that the 3 acts are usually taken as one, because sometimes it's a continuum. You can enter the country as a refugee and end up being a naturalized citizen. In other words, having a citizenship. So we are proposing that the acts be overhauled. There are quite a number of weaknesses there in the acts, which needs to be corrected. Some of the weaknesses were pointed out by the team headed by the former Director General in the presidency, Dr. Lubisi. If you remember, they reviewed, I asked them to review all the permits from 2004 until now. And during their review, they found that some of the weaknesses in the act causes a gap which is used for people to enter the country. A good example we should give is the issue of marriage and the issue of retirement, where 16-year-olds were found to be having retirement visas because the act is silent about the age at which a person can come and retire in South Africa. Whereas we know that in our act, a retirement age is 60 or 65, but the Immigration Act is silent about people coming here and say, I want to retire in South Africa. So that's why we have got to review all the acts and overhaul them and change them.
And the issue of rogue elements within the Home Affairs Department that fuel the situation?
Oh, these ones who are washing them out. We are arresting almost every day. We are taking them to DC. We have already fired a few of them. We are on the rampage when it comes to that, because we need to clean the department. There's no other way. We have to fire people who do this type of corruption. But also, we are not only going to react by waiting for people to do this and fire them. We are developing technologies that, for instance, will make it very difficult for certain things to happen. For instance, one of the most important technologies we are advising is to move from the system called HANIS. This is a biometric information system where all South Africans who are on the National Population Register are on HANIS. We've got their fingerprint and their photo. We have got your fingerprint, we have got your photo, because you did take an ID or a passport or a birth certificate, so we know your biometrics. But in this era of fraud and corruption and all that, we think that is enough. We are busy moving to a new system called ABIS, Automated Biometric Information System, which does not have only fingerprint and a photo, but it has got, in addition to that, the iris recognition technique. It can recognize the iris in your eyes, that this one belongs to Dudu Ramela and not to Aaron Motsoaledi. And also facial recognition. It can recognize that this is your face. It belongs to nobody else. When things like this, yes.
Thank you so much, Minister. Unfortunately, that's all we can afford in terms of time. But very quickly for us, when it comes to the issue of the Zimbabwean exemption permits, we're just 4 months shy from closing the year, and we know that deadline is December. Any update on that, or things still remain the same?
Yes, things remain the same, but we have chosen a special team. Again, it's chaired by Dr. Luvisi, the former Director General, with a number of prominent lawyers in the country who are going to process those applications, which the Zimbabweans who are prepared to apply will do. So I'm saying those who are prepared, because we are aware that others have been told not to apply because they were told that the court will squash this thing. So those who will apply, their documents will be processed by the team we have chosen. The team had a workshop last week. They've started their work.
Thank you very much for availing yourself. Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi is the Home Affairs Minister.